Today, we're going to focus on the back end of the sales process. So, to this point, we've talked about mindset and prospecting and stuff like that. And we're going to build on that this week. This is where we've been so far. And today we're here where we're going to talk about preparation for and smashing your sales meetings. I'm going to move on. Before we get into that, I think it's really important to just recap on where we've been so far over the last 4 weeks. In the first session, we absolutely focused on sales mindset, and specifically this concept of going from trying to sell something to someone to just focusing on finding people that you can help and leading with generosity and abundance and help. We talked about getting into the right frame of mind before each and every sales call or conversation and why it was important. Then I asked you to ask yourselves, who are you selling to? We talked about avatars, client avatars, and then client personas, and talked about that early stage of the process where we're really looking to identify suspects in our, and then we covered these two things last time: trust, need, help, hurry, which is broadly speaking the framework that we're going through at the moment. So trust, need, help, hurry. So you're going to see that throughout today's slides: trust, need, help, hurry. And then this concept of the sales thermometers, where you've got one thermometer that always starts very high, skepticism. We're skeptical of people trying to sell to us. And one thermometer that is typically very low, which is trust. And the dance that we go on is just trying to nudge one down whilst we nudge one up. So that's where we've been. And this is a kind of visual representation of that. So we started with mindset right at the very beginning, and then we focused on the grey area at the top, so prospecting, and then reaching out, making that first contact using the GER model, which I talked to you all about, and then having that one-to-one and kind of asking a few clever contextual questions that help you identify the chink of a need. We're starting here. We've got to that point. You've got a marketing engine that's going all the time, hopefully. You've done some prospecting. You've identified some people that actually are prospects, and that's where we're going to move through today. We're going to move through from, are they showing some signs of buying from you? And we're going to talk about how I would encourage you to turn what might be just a small pebble in the shoe into something more urgent. I'm going to talk to you about how we do that. Then we're going to go into a bit of preparation. And then the sales meeting, I'm going to cover 4 areas: building rapport, needs analysis, preparation, presentation, and then overcoming objections before we close the deal out. So hopefully that all makes sense. Successful sales conversations follow this formula. I didn't come up with it. It was Tom Hopkins who came up with it. Trust, need, help, and hurry. And everything that we're going to cover today is designed to help you move that prospect. They're no longer a suspect, they're a prospect. You've identified this person might have a need for what you need, and we're going to take them through this journey, building trust from the very start and uncovering their real needs, really positioning your offer as a solution and creating the right level of urgency. We're going to start by looking at how you can build more trust and reduce skepticism by giving out some wow moments up front. And I've got a process called LEPT, L-E-P-T, LEPT, that I'm going to talk you through. And I genuinely believe that if you follow that framework or process, you should be able to turn more prospects into sales meetings. Next up, we're going to talk about how you uncover a real need and make sure that you prepare properly for it by asking the right questions. And then we're going to explore how you present your offer in a way that really makes it clear how you can help solve their problem, before finally we'll cover how you get them to hurry up. And that's not through pressure, that's just by asking some specific questions and generating a little bit of urgency and potentially being a little bit of a bit assumptive with the fact that they're going to buy from you. Okay, I'm just going to literally smash over this slide. The team put it in, but essentially we're starting before the sales meeting. We've identified a prospect. How do we turn that into a sales meeting? And I want to talk to you about wow moments. So I believe it's a really incredible way to build that trust thermometer up. So I got the expression wow moments from TGI's. You guys all know that Sarah and I worked there together in the early 2000s. And for any of you that ever went there, at that time, it was a really good place to go. They were at times top 50 employer. It was huge fun. We wore stupid hats and lots of braces with lots of badges all over them. And the most abundant badge, the one that most people had first, was what they called a WOW badge. And WOW stood for Walk on Water. We were encouraged to walk on water for our clients. We were encouraged to, we were recognized, and we were rewarded for going the extra mile for our clients. And when we did, and we got good feedback that went to the manager or someone spotted us going the extra mile, at the end of the shift, everyone would get together and they would give out these wow badges. And I've brought that into a modern day context, into how we use it within our business. And I use it more of a literal point, but I think that using these wow moments are a really incredible way, as I've said, to boost trust. They are an incredible way to break through the noise. Remember, at this stage, they're still just a prospect. They might not even really be weighing you up as a solution. You've had a one-to-one, you've been completely non-salesy until now, so they might not even think that there's anything that you're going to particularly help with. And they simply have what Erica McKay would call a pebble in their shoe. It's not a priority for them. They might not even be considering it. Let's face it, it's seldom the most important thing on our to-do list to think about the people that we've got in the room, to have a really deep understanding of our high-level our high-level finances, or to do that rebrand that we've been thinking about, or doing some mental health first aid training. They might be on the list as things that we'd like to do, but seldom is it the most important thing. And that's why wow moments can really help, because they'll break through the noise and make people pay attention to what it is that you're doing. So I like to think of wow moments as thoughtful little things that show that you've listened, that you understand, and that you actually care about that person. And there's things like a well-timed LinkedIn message, an article that speaks directly to their challenge, a handwritten note. These little things go an awful long way to build that trust. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say on that. It's a great way to build trust. Creating wow moments with Leapt. Okay, so most sales processes rely on a kind of single big moment, a great pitch, a strong meeting, a clever follow-up. But we all know that trust isn't actually built in a day. It's built step by step, little by little, through a series of small intentional actions that will position you as someone that's worth listening to engage with, and ultimately do some business with. And I use this process that we call Leapt. The first step, and surprise, the L in Leapt is LinkedIn. We're on it, that we're all on it. There's a billion business people on it, and it's the place where most of us hang out. Now, if you've been using my GER framework, like the good students that I know that you are, you'll all be ahead of the game here. But if you haven't, now is really the time to shine. You've had that one-to-one meeting, and the Leapt process starts 3 to 24 hours after that one-to-one meeting. The one-to-one meeting, you didn't do any selling, you just listened, you were interested, you asked a few cheeky little questions, but you didn't do any selling. The let process starts 3 to 24 hours after that meeting. Any more than that 24-hour period, and in my opinion, you've lost some of the magic. Now, what I want you to do is head to LinkedIn and post about your day. Mention what you got up to and tag the person that you spent some time with in it. Blow a little bit of smoke in their bum and mention something that you learned or you found out, that you found interesting, you discussed or you found funny. And after you've done that, hit them up with a little message that literally says, great to spend some time with you today. A sentence, maximum 2. So all of a sudden, the next time they go to LinkedIn, which hopefully will be the same day, they're going to see a notification where you're tagging them and then a message from them. Now, remember that 7-11-4 process. These are 2 separate interactions that they're seeing you on top of a one-to-one that they've just seen you. So in quick succession, you're hitting them with a number of different points of, oh, that's cat, that's cat, that's cat. It's tick, trust. Now, on LinkedIn, extra points if you consider using video or voice, because there are tons of LinkedIn messages that we all get, but we get very few video and voice notes on LinkedIn. So there we go. If they respond, great, but that's not really the intention at this stage. Remember, you're not selling anything. In this part of the process, LinkedIn, you're not selling anything. Then we jump to email. 12 to 48 hours after that meeting is where you're going to add some serious value. So the E in LEPT is obviously email. So LinkedIn, then email. And we deliberately want to take it off LinkedIn because this is where we want to set the intent that there's a more professional thing at play here. You took good notes in your meeting, and hopefully using one of the 5 key pain point questions that I know you've all done and you've identified an area where you think that you can help them. Now, what we need to do now is grab a piece of content from somewhere. That might be something that you've produced. That might be a blog or a video that's going to be helpful. It might be an article from the BBC. It might be something from somewhere else. The idea is you're just going to have a piece of content that you can share with that person in a completely non-salesy way that says, I saw this and I thought of you. Hey, I saw this weirdly and I thought of you. Hope you found it useful, or something like that. Really breezy, really casual. And again, no selling, just add value, just add value. So that's LinkedIn, email, just add value. Then we go to post. Now we've warmed them up. We need to wait a few days. You're still not selling them anything, but what we've done, if we've done it correctly, is we've planted some seeds that we're going to start to let grow. And then we're going to put something in the post to them. We're going to leave this 3 to 6 days after your one-to-one, because we don't want to bombard them up front. And okay, I've got a little quick question for you. I can't see everyone, Sarah, but outside of birthday cards, because you might have got some birthday cards, how many of you, by a show of hands, have had more than 3 pieces of handwritten post in the last 10 weeks? Has anyone had more than 3 handwritten anything in the last 10 weeks? No one. Okay, cool. That's what I thought was going to happen. So I did a little bit of research on this earlier on this week, because I think that this is an underutilized gold mine. And I thought I'd see how many messages people were getting through WhatsApp, email, SMS, and Facebook. And it's nuts. So what it said when I asked was, globally, the average human receives 121 emails per day. Can anyone relate? Does that feel right for anyone? maybe a few people. 50 WhatsApp messages per day. I can definitely relate to that one. 21 Facebook Messenger messages and 20 SMS messages. I don't get that many SMS messages, and I definitely don't get 21 Messenger messages. I get easily 120 emails, and I definitely get 50 WhatsApp messages. But I guess the point is, some of you will relate to some of that, and some of you maybe won't. None of you got 3 pieces of handwritten post in 10 weeks. And what that tells me is that is a highly underutilized medium to get your message through to people. There's a great book by Seth Godin, who's probably the most famous marketeer on the planet, and he wrote a book called Purple Cow. It's probably 20 years old now. It's still a classic. And he says, in a field full of cows, the purple cow, a field full of black and white cows, the purple cow is the one that stands out. If you need to stand out in your marketplace, be a purple cow, in other words. And what I'm telling you is, by sending stuff in the post, no one else is doing it. You become instantly remarkable by sending something in the post. And that might just be a postcard. It might be a handwritten card. It might be a brochure. It might be a handwritten letter. It might be whatever it is. But doing that is a very simple and easy way to make yourself remarkable. Here's what I would encourage you to do. And this is a message that I've used on some of you, and it worked. Hey, such and such, I loved our meeting and I can't stop thinking about it. I think we're really well aligned, and I'm absolutely certain that I can help you with whatever problem it was that you identified last week. I'd love to talk some more. Are you open to another conversation about it? Simple, simple, simple. And then I always sign it off with onwards and upwards, my friend. Now, guys, I'm not being funny. It works. So the P is post. And then the
Can I ask a
T.
question?
Yeah, of course. Crack on.
So this almost feels a little bit stalkery, but anyway, I get it. But if I write to someone and send them a postcard,
Yeah.
I know we're not selling here, but is it best to use my brand on that postcard to reinforce?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Would. And you know what? It is a little bit stalkery, unashamedly stalkery. Do you know how many people have called me a stalker in the last 4 years that I've been doing this? How many, Sarah?
Sarah.
One.
One.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't Sarah.
No.
One person has gone, ooh, you feel a bit stalkery.
Now, in fairness, she was absolutely right, because at the time, the message that we were going out with was something like, I can't stop thinking about. I'm sure that's what it was, right? I can't stop thinking about you in the conversation.
No, it wasn't that. It was like,
Not quite as blunt as that.
I've been watching you from afar or
That's
something.
right. I've been watching you from afar. And she happened to get home quite late one night to post and pick up this handwritten card saying, I've been watching you from afar. So I don't blame her.
With you, mate. Yeah, exactly.
Changed our message. But while we've broken the yeah, well done. While we've broken the flow anyway, I was in the process of replying to Kat's question in the chat there, which was, how do you know where to send it? The worst case scenario is you can get the business address from Company's House, or sometimes Maps if they're on Google Maps.
Kat, go to Company's House, get the director's details.
Yeah, but often the director's details on Company's House is actually their correspondence address, which is their home address. So yeah, that just to cut in. There you go. Over to you.
No, I just thought that often when I see it, that would be their registered office, which is often like their accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, possibly. So here's why the final point, the final step in the process is telephone. Because sometimes, occasionally, rarely, if I'm honest, I'll get an email or a call or a LinkedIn message from someone telling me that they got my card and they love it and they want to chat. But most of the time, I don't. So even after all of that proactive outreach, I don't get it, because I'm still not at the top of their to-do list, right? Even though I've done all of that, I'm not. People are busy. So they need another little nudge, and this is where the T comes in, and it's unavoidable. And I'm sorry for it, Nikki and Nikki, but I'm sorry, not sorry. This is just part of the process. So I would encourage you to wait 4 days if you've posted at second class before I pick up the phone. And I would always start with a big smile on my face and just go, did you get my card? Some of the time they don't get my card, but it's a really nice intro anyway. Sometimes Natasha will deliberately go, hey, I'm just following up on the card we sent. We never sent them a card. It's just well, sometimes we didn't send them a card. All right, Sarah, I can see your face. So you don't have to send them a card to say we sent you a card. Telephone is the key here. So before you pick up the phone, it's really important to visualize the conversation, visualize that you're telling them that you've been really thinking about something they said and you just couldn't get it out of your head. You need to make them believe that you really see the problem and you know that you can help them fix it. If that comes across in that phone call, I promise you that you're going to get an opportunity to pitch 75% of the time. It's not always going to work, but I'm really convinced that if you follow that process to the letter, 75% of the time, you'll get an opportunity to have a sales meeting with them. And I would just encourage you to remember all of the stuff we talked about in mindset, about remembering the successful meeting. Before you have that call, remember the successful meeting, go in high energy, the Superman poses and all that stuff. All right. That's the way to get the meetings. Leapt, I promise you, is the way to get the meetings. So now we're done with wow moments. It's about preparing well for the actual meeting. And there, for me, are 3 steps to go through with this. There's the immediate preparation, things like making sure that you've got the logistics right. When they agree on the phone to the meeting, you need to make sure that you send them the right calendar, the info, that you make sure that you check and double check the location and how long you're going to give each other and so on and so forth. Then you've got the week before the meeting, it's time for the logistics and a bit of strategy. So you need to prepare your needs analysis. And we're going to come on to this in a minute, but what are the key questions that you're going to need to ask to uncover the real challenges? You've got a surface level problem that you've identified in the nice, friendly one-to-one where it's not non-salesy. The only way you're going to sell this person is by uncovering real pain. So you need to make sure that your needs analysis is up to date. And then you need to do some mental preparation as well, the visualization, the affirmation, the picturing the meeting going well, and also thinking about the common objections you have and how you're going to overcome them if they come up. And then on the day of the meeting, you need to lock in the confidence, and that just comes back to the visualization, the affirmation, the power poses, and doing all of that sort of stuff. You need to get yourself into a peak state so that when you hit that meeting, you're like an Energizer bunny, because people buy from people they like and trust. And high energy, your vibration will attract your tribe. You've heard that before. There we go. So we've talked about wow moments, we've talked about the leapt process, and we talked about preparation ahead of time, what happens in the actual meeting. So you've prepared well, you're feeling confident, you're upbeat, you're in a good mood. You've got to remember that you've got to start with building that rapport. So remember to smile lots, use great body language, and I would suggest that it's really important to make them feel important, make them feel like you've been thinking about them. But equally, it's as important to recognize that you are equals going into this conversation. You've got stuff that you're amazing at, and so have they. You need to not be intimidated by the other person, even though ultimately you're trying to get them to spend money with you. You need to make them feel like you don't give a shit. You can help them. They either want you to help them or they don't. But please do not undervalue yourself and be intimidated by the other person. So I would encourage you to do the whole small talk thing, to build the rapport, to talk about whatever it is that you've identified that you can talk about for 2 to 5 minutes. Absolutely no longer than 2 to 5 minutes. You've got a base level of rapport already, but it's important to not start with selling too hard. So you build some rapport. And then this is the part of the process which, if you ask me, is the most important part of the entire process. The needs analysis is where you have got the permission to go deep and ask really challenging questions that are going to lead you to pain points that you can help solve. Now, with my one-to-one business coaching prospects, my needs analysis actually happens before the sales meeting. So when someone says, yeah, I'm open to it, yeah, I'm open to meeting with you to talk about how you might be able to help me, they get a 60 odd question. We call it a business background questionnaire. And they tell me about their last 3 years turnover, their revenue, their profit. They tell me about what they're good at, what they're not so good at. They tell me about what their aspirations are. They tell me about who the decision makers are in their business. They tell me about who the key members of their team are. So I get all of this information before I'm even in the sales meeting. However, let's assume that you're not doing that at this stage. And some of us need to work towards that, I would suggest. But let's assume you're not doing it. You need to get it in the meeting. The reason I get it before the meeting is it would take me a long time to go through 60 questions and get basic information that I'm going to have to ask them. To do a good job for them, I need to know it. It's going to waste a load of time. So have a glass of wine and do it beforehand. But we're going to assume that you've not done it beforehand. You must do it now. How many of you, just by a show of hand that I can't see, have got a kind of structured needs analysis that you work through already? Kat's flimsy.
Yeah.
I can only see Kat. I can't see anyone else.
Like 2/3.
Okay, fabulous. Okay. Homework's going to be easy then, gang. What I want you to do when you get to this point is to explain that you need to ask some questions to find out and help you understand how you can really help them best. You need to make sure that they're okay with you asking these questions, number one, and number two, that they're all right with you making notes and taking notes. And if it's the first time, even if it's the first time that you're using this in a structured sales meeting, for some of you, you won't have done this before, I want you to convince yourself in your mind that this is just the way that you do it every time. This is the process that you follow. So you get your sheet of paper out where you've got the questions and then you just go about and ask them. And trust me when I tell you, I've been in lots of sales meetings where people were trying to sell to me. When they pull out a sheet and they casually talk through the questions with me and they fill them in, I answer every single frigging question. But if they didn't have that sheet of questions in front of them, I would pretty much guarantee you that 50% or more would have gone, oh, it's a bit awkward, that question. I don't want to ask that one. It feels a bit too personal, and they wouldn't answer it. And the only way that you're going to get to pain is by asking uncomfortable questions. The job of the needs analysis section so you build rapport, then you go into needs analysis. And the job of the needs analysis question section is twofold. Number one, you need to make the prospect open up to you, and you need them to give you information that you will subsequently be able to match the benefits of what you do to the pain points that you uncovered in this section here. And so, yeah, that's what you need. That's what you need to do. So get the information and then be able to match that information back to the pain points. And if you get this section, I promise you the rest of it will become really easy. So then we need to move into help. So we've gone through trust. We've done lots of stuff to reduce the skepticism and to build the trust. We've been through rapport. We've done great preparation. We've been through rapport. We've done all of the LEP stuff and added some value early on. We've understood their need by asking the right questions. We now need to get to, okay, let me show you how I can help. And I always like to break this section down into two kind of smaller sections. There's a pre-presentation, which will continue to build trust and kind of demonstrate a bit of credibility. And it allows you to do a bit of a kind of temperature check on where they're at. And then the actual presentation where you demonstrate what working with you actually looks like and what makes you unique. The pre-presentation side of things. So it's, as I said, your chance to build credibility and show that you understand the challenges that you've just identified. And there are some key things or key tips that I would encourage you to think about. Once you've been through that needs analysis, the first thing to really do is to paraphrase back what you've heard. So confirm your understanding of what's going well, what's not going so well, what the challenges and pain points are, and make sure that they say yes to your analysis of their pain point. If they say no, then you need to go back to pain. You need to go back to the needs analysis and make sure that you're absolutely crystal clear of what the challenge is, okay? And what we want to try and do is continue to get these yeses throughout the next couple of sections, right? Yes, yes. Do you want to work with me? Yes. No, yes, no, yes, no. Do you want to work with me? No, yes. Get them saying yes. Number two, offer quick wins and really actionable advice. You are the expert in HR, in finance, in training, in health and safety, in whatever it is. You're the expert. When you've identified some gaps in their knowledge or some things that they've talked about, give them a couple of quick wins, because we want to continue to build trust and credibility, right? So just give them some quick wins, and then show that you understand by talking about current or previous clients that had similar challenges, which will demonstrate that you know what you're talking about and you can show them a brighter tomorrow. Use case studies or examples just to shine some light and show that you're fabulous at what you do, and then show them what great really looks like. So paint a clear picture of what it could look like if you worked together and you fixed it. So all of that stuff, before you get into going, can I show you how it works? You're taking them on that little slow dance, those 4 steps, 5 if you include the key one, which is getting buy-in to show them how you're going to do it. So once you've taken them through that part of the presentation dance, the pre-presentation, if you will, it's really important to say, how does that sound? Can I show you how we could work together? Can I show you how it works? You must use that phrase, because no one's going to say no. So you've got a yes, you've probably got another yes somewhere in there, and then you've got a third yes before you're showing them how you work together. Alrighty. Next, we come to the presentation. It's time to show them exactly how you can help them. This is absolutely not about just listing the services that you provide. It's where you introduce your way, the way that you uniquely do it. I'll demonstrate how I do this. So I've gone through all of the stuff that I've just talked to you about, and then I'll say, can I show you how we work? And I talk them through a process where we get together and we talk about what you really want to achieve in your life. What are the things that you want to have? What are the things that you want to do? And who it is you need to be to get what you want to have. That is a Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People framework that I follow. But I talk to them about this is how we're going to get crystal clear on helping you get what you want from the rest of your life. I then go on to say that successful people, business people, will always start with a long-term vision. And I go, you've told me that you haven't really done any business planning. I'll tell you how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to start with a 10-year goal in mind. Where does the business want to be in 10 years' time to help you get what you want out of your life? And then we work backwards from 10 through 3, and we paint a little bit more color in, and then we go to 1 and we paint much more color in, and then we go to 90 days and we have this 90-day process where you come together every 90 days with regularity with other people to work on your business, not in it. So I share some frameworks that I've taken from other people, and I show them how I can help them to get what they want. And at each point in that process, I'm going, you said that you don't do much of this, or you said that this is a problem, or you don't like it. I'll hold you accountable. How would that work, Jess? What I'm going to encourage all of you to do, how many of you have got a documented, this is the way that we do it process? Kat, have you got one?
No.
Chris. Okay, no surprise. Okay, here's the thing, gang. If you want to get away from swapping your time for money, specifically working on an hourly rate, this is the golden piece of missing information. Once you have got your process, the way that you do it, that's unique to you, no one else can copy it. It makes it you, and it helps you from going from, yeah, we're going to charge you 68 quid an hour to this project, it's going to be £4,000. So I would highly encourage you all to, and you've all got one, by the way. Kat, you say you haven't got one, and I'm picking on you because you're the only person I can see. But you've got one, you just haven't documented the steps. And does anyone know Dave Plunkett? A few of Dave Plunkett, right? So Dave is a really good one because he's got his dance framework. It's perfectly aligned to Dave Plunkett, if you know him, because he's a like massive raver from the 80s and 90s, and he's got this dance framework that he's got. And the reason it's so powerful is because when you use an acronym like that to help you remember the steps of your process, it becomes memorable and it becomes yours. So we've got the 10, 3, 1, 90 process that I can talk through because it's in my head and it's written down, and we've got graphics that show what that process is. And my encouragement to all of you, when you get into those sales meetings, is to show people how you do it. And then at each step, relate it back to the pain points that they've got and ask them, does that make sense? Would you see benefit in that? Now, I got this idea from a book called Built to Sell, which I know for a fact that Nikki Shield has read, because if you had a graphic design business, this is the one book that I would encourage you to read if you wanted to scale your business. And he talks about how he went from having disjointed advertising agency doing lots and lots of stuff to just being absolute world-class specialists in logo design that follow this specific process. And this is what you get when you work with us. You get this, then this. Simple and yeah, highly personalized, easy to tailor to individual challenges and points. There's a few things that you need to do as you go through this part of the process. So you need to explain why it works, why you developed it in the first place. So you could say, after working with this business, we did this process and it worked a treat. So we went, okay, let's refine it. You need to be able to walk them through the steps of the process. And at each point, get them, ask them, does that make sense? Do you see the benefit? Would that benefit you if we did that? Yes, you need to do that. And then the final thing to do is to check for engagement. So how does that sound so far when you get towards the end? And then shut up and let them talk. How does it sound so far? Ask that question and then be absolutely quiet, because in sales training, what they will always tell you is the person that speaks first after a question like that is the person that buys. So you need to get really comfortable asking that question and then shutting up. So just for absolute clarity, how does this all sound so far? And then what most people will do is they'll go, sounds really great. How much does it cost? Most of the time. So you then go on to price. Now, I have always been told that you should price so high that it makes you feel slightly uncomfortable saying it out loud. What I would tell you, whichever pricing model that you choose to go by, what you absolutely must know and understand is the way that you present price is as important as the price itself. So confidence is absolutely key. If you hesitate when you're presenting price, they'll hesitate. If you over explain it, they will feel like you're trying to justify it. The price is the price is the price, and it represents the value that you bring to your audience. There are a few things that I want to impress on you here in this kind of presenting price thing. We talked about it already, but I want to just drill down on it again and again. We need to all try our best to get away from an hourly rate. Kat will back me up on this. I'm picking on her because I can see her, but she will back me up on this. The finance director in the room will be nodding her head going, yes, we need to all get away from hourly rate. Because you will all struggle to scale when you're selling stuff by the hour. That's a fact, because you've got to build in a margin and then it's fucking tough. You can absolutely have your rate in mind, but don't ever tell them what it is. Give them a price to solve the challenge, not an hourly rate. So that's the first thing on pricing. So and when you are presenting price, try really hard to frame it with the outcome first. So based on everything that we've discussed, I'd recommend this specific solution, which is specifically designed to solve this key pain point that I know that you're feeling. And it's going to help you achieve this thing that I know that you want to achieve. State it confidently and then stop talking. The first person to speak will buy. What else can I say on price? Okay, we're going to cover this in a bit more detail in a second, but I always assume that I'm going to win the deal. Lots of times I don't, right? But I always assume that I'm going to win the deal. So I will always assume that what I've said is the best thing that they've ever heard and they want to do business with me. So I will always say, after I've presented price, I'll say something like, and if you want to get going straight away, or if you want to start seeing the results within this period of time, we really need to get on it. How does that sound? It's like an assumptive close. I'm going to talk more about closes in a minute, but once you've presented price, shut up, let them talk, let them think about it, and then go, that's great. When do you want to get started? Okay, so that's help. You might get some objections. Shit, but it's a fact of life. And actually, it's really important to realize that objections are never a rejection. It's just a sign that a prospect needs a little bit more confidence or clarity or reassurance. So instead of taking it personally and pushing back, see the objection as an opportunity to understand what's really holding them back. So the key is to stay calm and be curious and to keep the conversation going. So there are a few things that you can do here, right? Acknowledge and reframe. So I completely understand where you're coming from. Many of our clients, my clients, felt exactly the same way before they got started. And what we found was this. They wished they'd start. What I usually use is they wish they'd started a year ago. Lots of people have told me about this. They started working with me, and what they tell me is they wish they'd started earlier. Perfect. But that really cements in their head that you've done it for other people, there's a proven concept, and most people wish they started earlier. That's the acknowledge and reframe. You could ask a clarifying question. For example, when they give you some sort of objection, you can say, help me understand that a little bit more. What do you mean? What specifically is it about that's a challenge to you? What we're going to do there by overcoming their objection with another question is shift the conversation slightly from a vague no to a problem that you might be able to help solve, and then check for agreement and move forward. So you might have to come up against a few of these objections. My advice to you is to try and stack all of the objections into a one-er. So don't start answering any specific objection until you've figured out whether there are any other objections, because you don't want to spend 2-3 minutes answering that objection and then they hit you with another one. And then you spend 2 or 3 minutes answering that objection and they hit you with another one. What you want to do is go, okay, that's great. I will answer that. I'll come to that in a minute. Is there anything else that's challenging you about this? Okay, great. I've got that down. I'll answer it in a minute. Is there anything else? Get all of the objections up front before you start batting them off one by one. And then try where you can to just drill down a little bit and ask questions to help you get over that. So that's objections. And then we get to the hurry up stage, the closing the deal. If you've done the other steps properly, should never feel like you're tricking people or putting any pressure on. Really, it's the final part of that dance that we've been talking about, if you've done the other bits right. And I always think it's great to, as I said, to assume that I'm going to win it and assume the close with confidence. So I will always say something like, sounds like we're in agreement that this is going to solve that problem. When do you want us to get started? Shut up. Don't say anything. Just shut up. And if that assumed close doesn't feel like the right one for you, then you could go into some other ones. So you could give them some ownership by saying something like, you said to me in the needs analysis questioning, you're not going to use those words, but when we were talking about the challenge, you said that you needed to get it sorted by this time. If we start at this point, this week, next week, you'll be seeing results by 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. How does that work for you? That's softer than being assumptive. There are two ways to close out the deal. And I would always encourage you to end on a positive. So whenever, and I know that all of you, if not all of you, most of you have heard me dance around in my room as a result of winning your business. I do it every single time. When you say yes to me, I go, yay! And I run around like this. And then if Sarah's around, I'll go downstairs and I'll hug Sarah and we'll go, yay, together. And I do that because it makes me feel good. And I think business is fucking hard. So let's celebrate the wins where we get them. But on top of that, it makes you feel good and it makes you feel like you've made the right decision. You've made me happy and I'm going to make you happy. So I would always encourage you, when you get to that point of yes, to make a big song and dance of it, to make people feel like they've made the right decision. All of us will have seen those videos and memes where it's like when you say yes to a small business owner and they're dancing around like mentalists. It's because it's true. We're all small business owners and every win we get is really personal and really valuable and really valued. So make sure that you reinforce how happy you are to win the deal. Okay, after the sales meeting, how long have we got? Sending a proposal. 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You'll notice that nowhere in here have I said send a proposal. And that's going to really blow Nikki's mind, because Nikki was saying, I've got X amount of proposals out. Don't send a proposal. Don't send a proposal. If you can avoid sending a proposal, don't send a proposal. If you absolutely positively have to send a proposal, then do it. But there are some things that you should focus on if you're going to send a proposal. Don't just blindly agree to send a proposal, ever. Clarify what it is that they actually want you to send first. All of us on this call have said before, send me a proposal. People have given you hours, days, weeks worth, years worth of their intellectual property and free consultation, which they've put into a beautiful 15-page report. And we have gone, that's great. You look at the front page and it's, oh yes, they know about me. They've copied my website. That's brilliant. And then you flick to the back page and you go, how much is it going to cost me? Has anyone never done that? I would imagine that we've all done that, right? We don't read fully the proposals that we get. So don't do it. And if you do it, just agree what's to go in it before you spend loads of time on it. The second point is to understand and identify whether it's a stall or a genuine request. So usually when someone asks for a proposal, it's because they need to share proposals. They need to share the information with other people. If they just want to think about it, you need to dig deeper and go back to the pain. I would say 100% of the time, this is the biggest thing if you're going to send proposals. Never agree to do any sort of proposal without agreeing to a meeting to review the proposal. That's the biggest thing. If they're not prepared to commit to meeting you to go through the proposal, they're just fobbing you off. It's likely that you won't ever get the business from them, so don't do it. And then finally, set a deadline. So if I get this to you by this date, when can we sit down to review it? And I promise you, I definitely would not send a proposal if it didn't have that meeting in place. That's the most important thing. Okay, we're at 1 minute past. So we talked about wow moments. We talked about the LEPT process, which is how you're going to get more of these sales meetings. Nikki, I hope you found that section really useful. I feel like I wrote it for you today. Then we went into how you actually prepare for the sales meeting, and then the structured process that you should follow in that sales meeting. And then I briefly took you through some objection handling and closing the deal. In terms of homework, should you wish to complete it, there's a few things that we've done for you. We've created a needs analysis template. It's like a guide to help you figure out what are the most pertinent and important questions that you should be asking in every single sales meeting that you go into moving forward. So I would encourage you to do that. I think Sarah's just put it in the. I would encourage Nikki definitely, and any of the others of you who want to start making some sales, to start this LEPT process. Now, if you've been following the Accelerator, you'll already have 15 contacts in your prospects list that you can start this process with. If you haven't, then you need to start that process. The next thing I think that would be useful is for you all to spend some time thinking about your unique process as it relates to a sales environment. And again, we've got a document that Sarah's going to share with you on that. And then finally, think about and write down your top 3 objections and how you handle them. That's the homework. And that's it. Thanks, gang.